Hi there, I'm Sandy. Welcome back to GolfCoachin. So today's video is going to be a tutorial for all the beginners, and I'm talking about absolute beginners here because I learned golf the hard way and I don't want you to. So today's video is a short take on a few basics of the course, some terminology that you're going to have to get used to as golfers, some details of the equipment you're going to use, the golf clubs, as well as the different types of shots you will be playing, and of course some details about how to mark your scores and what the scores mean. So at the end of this, not only will you be able to walk the walk, but you will be able to talk the walk also. As you'll be well aware, the golf course is divided into what we call holes. A standard golf course has 18 holes and also is counted at 72 strokes. So it's a par 72 course. If you don't understand words like par, bogey, birdie, then this is the video for you. Keep watching. I'm now going to take you through an entire hole in the sense that there will be 18 of these on the standard golf course. On smaller courses, you will have 6 or 9, which you play in a repeated pattern. So right now, let's start with the basics of the design of what we call a hole on the golf course. Every hole starts with something known as a tee box. So what we're seeing now is one of the tee boxes, and it's a designated area from which you play your first shot. The tee box leads to something called the fairway. And what you see up ahead is the fairway, technically known as a closely mowed area. Further up ahead, which will be difficult to see from this angle, so I'm just going to zoom you onto another green. So at the end of the fairway, if you can see that flag fluttering there, is the green, and I'm going to show you another green which is close by, just so that you get a better view of the construction. We'll go there shortly. Let's continue with what the tee box holds. So the tee box holds these markers which designate the starting blocks for this hole. Once you play along the fairway, you approach the apron of the hole. You might have minor hazards like bunkers or penalty areas, which are marked with either yellow or red stakes. The significance of these areas I'll cover in another video in the future, and we'll also tell you about how to account for the penalties or the extra strokes in your game, or how to take relief from these areas. Now we're walking up to the green. So the green is a very special place in the golf course. It has its own rules, and I'll discuss this in detail another time. We've walked up to the green now. You'll notice that it's a very fine surface, which is why one has to be very careful while treading on the green and around it. We end up at the spin, also called the flag, and this is also called the hole. Getting on to a quick description of the clubs. You'll find many types in your bag. The total number that you can hold in your bag at any time during an official match is 14, including your putter. These clubs are numbered from 1 down to 9, and there are some special clubs which I will describe soon. And there are mainly 3 types of clubs. The first of those is this bulbous type, also called the woods. And the first of those, marked by number 1, is known as a driver. So this is a driver. Down in the series at number 3, 5, and so on are these smaller woods. So what I'm holding right now is a number 5 wood, also called a 5 wood. A variation of these in modern times is this club. It's called a rescue, and its characteristics are those between irons and woods, and I'll tell you how this works later on. The workhorse of your game, the iron, this is your mainstay on the fairways. Coming back to the special irons that I was telling you about, these are called wedges. There are 3 or 4 types of those. They're called the pitching wedge, the sand wedge, the approach wedge or the gap wedge, and a lob wedge. How these work, I'll describe to you later. And of course, coming to the most important club in the bag, this teeny weeny small thing called the putter. Just remember that this small club accounts for nearly 50% of your game when you're playing well. So what are the parts of these clubs? Let's break them down into the 3 basic areas: the grip, the shaft, and the head of the club. The grip is made of either rubber or other special materials, and they help you grip the club. You'll find different sizes that can match your needs. The shaft itself is made of either metal or graphite and has different rigidities or flexes, as we call them. And again, depending on your age, swing speed, and a few other factors, you can decide which shaft to go in for. This part is known as the club head, and it has a few bits. This is the hosel where the shaft meets the club head. This is the club face. This is the heel of the club, and this part is known as the toe. The sweet spot lies somewhere around this area and is where you will try and impact the ball on each and every stroke. Let's talk a little about the sequence of play and the different scores you can make during a round of golf. The general rule followed is that the person furthest away from the pin has the honor, as we call it, to play the shot. And the same continues through the sequence of shots during the game. Whether you're on the fairway or on the green, the same rule applies. The person with the lowest score has the honor to begin teeing off for the next hole. Let's talk a bit about the scores. So the course is designed in such a manner that it takes a certain number of shots for an average player to finish the hole. That is from tee off till you hole out the ball. This designated number of shots is called the par for that particular hole. Also, you will encounter a term known as the stroke index. The stroke index describes the difficulty of that hole as perceived by the designer or the administrators of the course. So a hole with stroke index 18 will be the easiest hole to play, and with stroke index 1 is perceived to be the most difficult hole to play on that particular course. So let's say the par for a certain hole is 4, so it's called a par 4, and if you finish that particular hole in 4 shots, you can say, I have made par for that hole. However, if you take an extra shot, it's called a bogey. 2 extra shots are called a double bogey, a triple, a quadruple, quintuple, and so on. The good news is that we have terms for when you play below par. And below par is a good thing when it comes to golf. So if you play 1 stroke below par, that means on a par 4, if you play and finish the hole in 3 shots, it's called a birdie. And if you finish it in 1 shot lesser, that is 2 strokes less than par, then it's called an eagle. 1 below that is called an albatross. And here's wishing you lots of birdies, eagles, and albatrosses through your golfing career. A quick and short description about the different types of shots that you would like to play and which you will end up playing during a round of golf. It's a beautiful line that goes, If you hit it to the right, it's called a slice. If you hit it to the left, it's called a hook. And if you can hit it straight, it's a miracle. We all hope for miracles like those. And there are a few minor variations of the errors that I'm going to talk about. Sometimes these shots, which have a shape, which means they're either played from left to right or right to left, are done so that you can manage your course more effectively. However, more often than not, what happens is that when we begin learning to play golf, we happen to hit these shots inadvertently. You need to know what these shots are called, what causes them, and how to correct for them. Those details at a subsequent point, but however, now a brief description of the shots themselves. So a shot that takes off, let's say from this point where I'm teeing off from towards this target, and let's say I make the shot and the shot starts cutting away to the right of the intended direction, is called a fade. If the same thing happens in a more uncontrolled and vicious manner, it's called a slice. So I'll say that again. That's a fade. This would be a slice. The opposite, that is to the left of your intended target line, is called a draw, which means the ball takes off slightly to the right of the target and does a nice arc and ends up on the target line. However, if this becomes an uncontrolled swing, an uncontrolled shot, then it's called a hook. In that case, the ball will take off and for some inexplicable reason shoot away. Of course, there are masters who can use this shot to their advantage in crux situations. However, we are going to try and hit the ball straight first. Okay, the full shot that you start with, which would look something like this, is called a drive. Okay, and the shorter versions would include playing a small shot like this, known as a chip. This chip is used for distances between like 30 yards and below. So 30 yards and below, you will play this shot known as a chip. Between 30 yards and 100 yards to your target, we generally employ two kinds of shots. One of them is a pitch, which is a very short, elevated shot, and the other is a punch, which has a very low trajectory but can cover similar distances. And of course, we come to putting finally, which is a shot played on a green like this and is the general shot used to finish off a hole. If you are lucky, you can even hole out from one of your initial shots, and that can be called a chip in, and these situations usually lead to birdies. Two terms that you are going to familiarize yourself with, and you need to. The first of them is called the waggle, which is the adjustment that you get your body to make before you finally strike a ball. So after you set yourself up, remember to do this waggle, because that is what fine-tunes the position of your body. Another shot which I hope we are fortunate never to encounter is popularly called the whiff, where you've addressed the ball, you've done an upswing or a backswing to finish it, and you completely miss your ball. The ball is still lying there, and you're looking sheepish. Of course, it counts as a stroke, but this kind of shot is called a whiff. Coming back to chip shots, the term that you will often encounter is called chip and run, or the bump and run, in which case you play a very short, almost stubby shot, get the ball to bounce onto the surface of the green, and then roll onto the pin. That's called a chip and run. Two favorite shots of all beginners One is called the mulligan and the other is called the gimme. The mulligan is of course a shot where you maul it again, which means that your first shot didn't go quite as well as you liked and you played again. In an official tournament, of course, this won't be allowed. In a friendly match, you can decide how many mulligans you want to give each other. A gimme is a shot which lies so close to the pin that your opponent thinks that you're going to make it anyways, and so to save time, he says, that's good. Or if you think that's good, then you say, gimme, that's a gimme. And he'll say, okay, that's yours, take it, pick it up. Or he'll say, that's good. While you play, there will be situations where either your ball is lying so close to an obstruction that you cannot play it, or you're lying in a penalty area. In both these cases, there are very specific rules about how you must extract the ball from that position, drop it at the correct point, and then play it from there. Those rules, another time. That's a wrap for today. And I hope this little session has been useful in clearing some basic terminology that you are going to encounter on the golf course. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about or golf in general, feel free to get in touch. You can see my contact details in the comment section. Like always, happy golfing, enjoy yourself.